And we are live. Who all is in the house tonight? And then I'll introduce our guest. Most of you probably know him. We've got Unfinished Project here. He does put up the link to the No Name Nationals. If you've not yet registered, it's pinned at the top. Time is short. It's 54 days, 3 hours, and 52 minutes until the 4th annual No Name Nationals, and it's going to be here before you know it. We've got Lars here. Dan E. Boyd, Hot Rod Guy Garage Russell is here. 6th Street Garage, Mexican Spec. Rabbit Transit J, thank you for being here. Indecisive Garage. We've got Ginger Vance, Crystal Onyx, making sure it's not a 100% male audience tonight. Colleen is here. Mama M3. We've got Mohawk 62, 38 Racing Ray. Hello, sir. I know you've been welding on a truck, I believe I saw. Turbo Tom 416, our official pace car for the cruise to Lambert's. Dean Stevenson is here. Gosh, we've already got 3 countries in the chat. The One-Eyed Cat Dawn is here. Glad you're here, sir. Lone Wrench Garage. And Indecisive and Lone Wrench Garage, you guys know they are right about halfway in their quest for 500 subscribers. And they have 54 days and a matter of hours to get them, and they can do it. So support them. Be looking for something with them soon. Twisted Mopar Dennis, hello, sir.
Hi, Dennis.
Matthew, glad you could make it. Andrew Nelson says, good evening from Team Nivlac 57. We appreciate you watching. And this will be a good time for me to mention we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. So tonight, the first half of the live, I want to be more biographical in nature because I've got some cool old pictures I'll put up on the screen, and you saw a couple of them in the thumbnail. I think it'd be neat for us to talk about some of the things that Deke has done in his career, because you guys know him as the tech inspector for the No Name Nationals, and he's a very good and qualified one, and we love him. He's part of the team. But he also was a racer. And so we've got some stuff like that to share tonight and different things. And I just thought I'd let you know. So if you have tech questions, we'll be glad to take them, but let's save them for the second half. So the first half of the night's live is just, let's get to know Deke a little bit, and then we'll jump into the tech questions later. So if you have them, just hang on to them. We'll come back to them, okay? They are important. But I figure after 4 years of running this event, we can only talk about, lug nut engagement and fuel hose and battery hold downs and overflow bottles but so many times. We got plenty of time for that in the second half. But my Aunt Nancy is here. Glad you could make it. Ryan Bar's Ness. Pure Pontiac Garage. Hello. Thanks for coming by. Andrew Nelson asks, anyone watching our 57 Chevy build? We're looking for cheap scratch and dent trim. Wait a few months. I probably know where there will be some. Unity Motorsports Garage, Andy, howdy. Kim Fixes Things is here. Thank you for coming out to the live tonight. Outfits Garage, Russell. All right, got a good crowd tonight. About 40 people in here already. Well, so those of you, probably almost everybody here recognizes Deke. If you've been to the No Name Nationals and you've ever had a car on the track or in the burnout pit, you have met Deke before. He is the one that makes sure that your car can comply with our standards for tech. And so, but we're going to talk about tech questions, and we'll do that in the second half. But for now, I thought it would be really cool to have a live where we get to just talk with Deke a little bit and ask him some questions and get a little bit of biography on him and things he's done, because he is a very interesting guy. And he also, and there's Dallas in the chat, and I was just getting ready to mention, Deke and Dallas go way back. That's something else I'd like to talk about. But anyway, Deke, thanks for being on tonight. I appreciate you being here. He does have a little bit of speaker difficulty on his end, a little bit of volume. So I am trying to speak up a little bit for that. So I apologize if I'm shouting at my own mic a little bit, but that's okay. But anyway, Deke, I want to thank you for being here. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. We always have you at least once a year, if not twice. But what I wanted to ask you, I want you to tell these guys some things about, like where you're from and your earliest hot rodding origins, what you did back then. I mean, all of us as teenagers did stuff. What did you do, and where did you do it?
Well, I'm born and raised right here in central Illinois. I live 5 miles from the hospital I was born in. I was a farm kid, so anything I wanted to play with, if it was a go-kart, a mini bike, building models or anything like that, I had to do it myself. There was never any money as a farm kid. My dad was a tenant farmer, so there was never any money to buy cool stuff and nice tools and stuff like that. So you had to make do with what you had. I had one of my brothers, he's now deceased, took me to the drag strip at Charleston, the famed Coles County Dragway, 8th Mile. And I think that was in about 1969, maybe 68. And walked up to the fence, and it was dark. And here come Wild Willie Borse in his fuel altered. And that was it. I was hooked. I knew I would be around this stuff all the rest of my life when I saw that car run. And it crashed that night, which was sad, but he didn't get hurt. He got it back together, and the rest was history for him. So then my brother got out of the Army and ordered a new 67 Fairlane GT 390 4-speed, brand spanking new, one of the fastest cars around these parts. And did a couple things to it, and I was always watching him and trying to help him, and he was 11 years older than me. So, and my next older brother was 17 years older than me, and he had a 66 Charger. So I, of course, being a farm kid, when I was 13, I guess when I was 14, I had a guy give me a 57 Chevy. 4-door, hardtop, 283 two-barrel, very unassuming, bright red, white trim, not a bit of rust on it. It was a nice car. And the transmission was getting tired in it. So at the age of 15, I learned how to change a cast iron power glide. And boy, was that a treat without a floor jack. And me and some of my buddies it's about an hour and 20 minutes north of here is the famed Oswego Dragway. And we would go up there on Sundays. And I got the bright idea. I didn't even have my license yet. I took off one Sunday and drove my car up there and entered it in a stock class. And I'll be damned if I didn't win a trophy. It was way down like in K stock, I think. So then I thought, well, no money, just a trophy. Okay. So I scrounged around and I found a 4-barrel intake manifold, and I found a carburetor. So next thing you know, I'm swapping that out with all the trials and tribulations. Of course, I had a Chilton book, so I was pretty good there.
Bear in mind, I believe Deke is on mobile internet, so maybe a little bit freezing, but it'll be all right. We got time this evening. We'll work it out. We'll work through our tech problems tonight. But I'll hold the bookmark where he is. That's when bench pressing was a thing indeed. I've never worked on a cast iron power glide, but I'd be glad to try. Deke will be right back. Yeah, that's okay. We'll come back to it. It's not going anywhere. Are there any kids today like he was even on farms? I don't think so. They leave the farm. A lot of kids my generation left the farm. Not Frozy. Trying to remember how he adjusted the valves. Indeed. Yeah, we'll let Deke come back. He'll come back on the same link. I'll see him down below and let him in. No rush. I figured this would be fun, a relaxed evening. We could talk a little bit about Deke with these things because they're really cool and they're worthwhile. There we go.
Lost my internet. It said the StreamYard lost it.
Well, things happen. It's okay. But you were telling us you had gotten your 4-barrel, and that was your earliest mod there.
Right. And then, so I kind of gave up on trying to run that car because, well, the competition was pretty stiff, and it was basically class racing, what it was in 1972. So
when you were all of 15 in 1972, if the math is right.
Yes, that is correct.
Which means you wouldn't have had a driver's license.
Oh no, and I never got stopped. I was pretty mild-mannered. I didn't get in trouble or anything. My dad was not real happy, but it was just me and him, so he got over it. And one thing he did ask me, can you get hurt? I said, I suppose if you do something stupid, you can. And I never got hurt. So then through the high school years, I took automotive training. It was a 2-year vocational center about 45 miles away from where I went to school. Little tiny school. Our graduating class was 23. And took automotive training. And we had a couple guys that I went to high school with that were older that drag raced. And got interested, messed around with them guys with their cars, and then I got out of high school in 50 years ago, June of 75. And me and a couple of buddies, we found a car sitting out in the country. It was a 63 Dodge 330 called the Golden Fox. The engine was done by Mr. Norm.
Huh.
The guys that raced it got tired of it and decided to race A100 cab over pickup truck with a 383 instead.
Wow.
So this car sat on blocks along the highway for the longest time, and we went out and we bought that car. One of us went and got a battery. I went and got a pair of slicks. One of the other guys went and got a set of spark plugs. The fourth guy that was just helping out, he got a 5-gallon can of gas, the Sunoco 260, of course, back in those days. And we bought that car for $250 and drove it into town. And it had sat there 6 years, well, maybe 5 years. And it ended up with just a couple of us actually owning the car, and we started racing it in the spring of 76, and we ran that thing a whole year. It ran pretty good. I can't remember. We were running at Assumption Motion Dragway, and they were 1,000 foot for a lot of that, but I can't quite remember the ETs. It wasn't the fastest thing around, but it was a stock eliminator car. And so we went racing pretty cheap back in the day. And then me and my partner decided he wanted something.
Uh-oh. The internet may have gotten him again. Say quick to Mopar Al. Howdy, how you doing, sir? We'll give Deke a chance to regroup. Power to Al, welcome. Yes, indeed. Lone Wrench Garage, how you doing, sir? And yes, Colleen puts up the link to Lone Wrench Garage. If you've not yet checked him out, I see a pattern developing. I do too, but we're going to work through it. It's all good. Yes, it always is, but that's okay. I believe he's a little bit in the country, so he's kind of got limited internet. It can be. And that's a question I have for Deke. So we're going to let him regroup a little bit and come back. And we'll take tech questions in the second half. But I do think this is very interesting. I like this a lot. I hadn't heard any of this about them buying that car. I've heard a little bit of it, but, you know, I got to tell you, I don't always get a chance to – I don't get to just hang out with Deke at the No Name Nationals like you might think. I go by there periodically to check in on questions from tech because sometimes people are repealing something or something of that nature. Yes, sir.
It keeps dropping out and says it's on the StreamYard end.
I don't know. Well, we got you. That's okay. I'll take it how it comes tonight. We'll deal with it.
So, okay. So anyway, we got rid of the Dodge and we bought a 37 Fiat altered with a bone small block Chevy in it. And my partner he sat in the car and he got scared of looking at the back of that blower. He just knew he was going to be the next Don Garlitz eating that supercharger. So he wheeled and dealed with somebody and bought a tunnel ram and two 4s, two 600s. I put it on there because I was the wrench turner, and I said it'll never run right, and it didn't. He said, well, why won't it? I said, because it's 8-to-1 compression. You don't have any squeeze, and you got a real long duration camshaft. I think one they called back in the day, they called it a full race cam. Not a 3/4, but a.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's got some gremlins. Exactly. He's out in the country, yeah. Although we have had successful streams with him, so I don't know. Something's demanding a lot of bandwidth, I think. So not sure quite how we'll be able to do this, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah, he's at least 5 miles. I knew he was out in the country. I knew he had a farmhouse. By now, good internet service should be everywhere. It's for the most part. For the most part. Sometimes I wish I was that far out, but I'll tell you, days like today, it's super convenient to be able to run around wherever I need to go. You 10 miles out, Lone Wrench Garage, yeah. Nothing, 10 miles from the nearest gas station, yeah. 10 miles, nothing wrong with being 5 miles from the nearest gas station, left turn. Yeah, that's fine, as long as you have more than 5 miles worth of gas. Yes, sir. And the thing is, we've streamed before, so something might be demanding a little more of it. Might be where I've got a 1080 stream going. I'm not sure if that affects anything on your end or not, but we will see what we can do, Mr. Deke.
Yeah. It keeps dropping out, and my phone keeps telling me it's on the StreamYard end, which I don't understand. So
I don't either.
Anyway.
But go ahead.
So anyway, we ran that little 37 Fiat a little bit, and it was just miserable. So I kind of broke away from that deal, and me and that guy kind of split up a little bit. Still friends to this day. And I went down and started helping Dallas's dad, Russell. And I guess the winter of 77 for the spring of 78. And he wanted to run the points at Motion Dragway. And no, the blower did not go back on, Dan. But anyway, we started, Russell and I, Dallas's father, we started building a 68 Camaro. And it needed a lot of work. Of course, the body was perfect because it was less than 10 years old. But we were running out of time. So then we stumbled across a front engine dragster. So we started to put it together with a 427 and a power glide. Well, one of the local TIG welding gurus came over and looked at the chassis, and he said there were so many cracks in it. He said, "You guys can't run this." Well, we didn't have the wherewithal or the money to put a new tube chassis in it. So some guy came into Russell Brown's station and was selling a 1970 Buick Grand Sport 455.
Mm.
Bought that car for $250.
Wow.
The guy said the crankshaft was broken. No, the bolt was gone out of the harmonic balancer. We put a new bolt in there, tightened it up, and Dallas's grandpa drove it back and forth to work for about a week, 17 miles from Paxton to Gibson City, and he said it only gets 6 miles a gallon. And we were like, you know what? Let's throw a set of slicks on it and take it racing. So a set of hooker headers and a pair of slicks, and we towed it with Dallas's dad's wrecker. So pick it up at the back end and head to the track. Lights are flashing. Cheaper than a trailer.
Sure.
And it was all right off. So then we did that, and I think we were right up around 80% win rate in that car. We brought home money almost every weekend.
Wow.
We'd finish in the top 4, and it was easy to drive, turbo 400, just pull it and drive and just nail it. There were not reaction times on the time slips back then. Matter of fact, when we first started racing it, there were 5 ambers and a green. Old school. So then me and Russ raced that for a year, and then I went on to something else. I was working on a guy's 69 CUDA, and that's when I really started to get hooked on the Dodge stuff. So then, a few short years later, I ended up with a car or two, just some beaters to run up and down the track. I had a KZ1000 Z1R Kawasaki that I drag raced, ran with wheelie bars on it all on the street, raced with it, had some success. Later built a 1000 GS Suzuki, had pretty good success with it. It was all good until things broke, and then it wasn't. And then in '90, I bought a 23T altered, and I knew nothing about it. It was a 440 wedge. Supposedly the drive line was out of a 69 Roadrunner. And off I went. I put my safety gear on it, bought my suit and all that stuff, and I had no idea what it would run. It had 1030 written on the slick when I bought the car.
And that is the car on the screen there?
The first time I ran it at Charleston, Illinois, it ran a 689. Hadn't been run in 2 or 3 years. It came out of Texas, and checked it over. Got ready to go up to make my second time run, and it was fine. I went like a 675. It picked up, and no trans brake. It was all foot brake. And then the third time run, well,
So Deke's a little frozen right now, but that's the car. He had sent me that earlier. It's a 440 with a 727. I'm going to temporarily remove him. We'll let him come back, but I'll leave the car up there and let you check that out. Yeah, I know. That's okay. We'll work through it. Yeah, I know. Deke's been having, seems like signal problems connecting to StreamYard, something like that. But he comes back. We'll get it worked out. No worries. Yeah, he'll be back though. We'll get through this. Sometimes you just gotta roll with it. You just gotta roll with it. I'm glad all you guys are here though tonight. I tell you, I love getting to talk with Deke. I don't get to talk with him enough at No Name Nationals, unfortunately. 249 teeth not doing their job? No, 249 teeth are doing their job. It didn't blow up. There we go.
Yeah, I'm back again.
You were telling us about your third run in the Roadster, and we've got it up on the screen.
Yeah, the third run, I was leaving the trailer to go to the staging lanes, and I grabbed second gear in it, and it locked up the rear tires. Ooh. And I thought, well, I'm glad that happened here and not out on the track. So I loaded it up, took it home, and built a transmission for it, and sent the converter, had a 8-inch converter in it, sent it out to California, had it remanned and all fixed up, 5,000 stall, and I raced that car for 5 years. After I did a little bit of tuning on it and adjusted the valves, that car would run 640 in the 8th mile. On a real hot day like today, it'd run 650. But cool fall air, I'd have to take timing out to slow it down because I didn't have, the cage wasn't certified, of course, for 639 or quicker. I had a lot of fun with that car.
Quick question. How long does it take you to adjust the valves on that? Typical valve adjustment.
I do it the Dodge way, so it take me about 15 minutes.
Okay. I do them in pairs, but I'm just curious. Hey, I want to put up a different picture really quickly. And this one right here, because you had mentioned Dallas's dad. I want you to tell us about this picture, if you would.
Yeah, I still don't have any sound here, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I guess it's probably the same internet thing.
Well, anyway, that's me in the driver's seat, and that's Dallas's dad, Russell. We're down at Charleston Dragway, and Russell's F85 Oldsmobile. Anyway, Russell rebuilt the engine in it and stuff. It was a 455. It started out as a Smogger motor, and we were just kind of shaking it down one day down at the famed 8th mile at Coles County Dragway. Had a lot of fun in that little car. And it was kind of nice racing with Russ again after all those years, you know, because I moved away. I lived 50 miles away from here for 25 years, so I hadn't seen him or heard from him in a long time. And we just kind of got into the old hot rodder habits again.
And what year would this have been right here, about this picture?
I believe that was in 16.
Okay, wow. Now, I believe he died in 2017.
Yeah, I think that's correct. And we had a lot of fun. So.
And when was the last time you've made a pass on the track?
Actually, that was probably my last pass on the track was in that car in 16.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. We were working some of the bugs out of it, and then it just, I don't know, life and or death got in the way, and that was the end of that.
Now, you did other stuff, I believe, with Dallas's dad. Dallas has told me about that. Like you've worked with him a little bit too, or?
I'm still trying to get some sound here.
Did you do some work with Dallas's dad, like in the shop? Or didn't he have a shop there in Gibson City, Illinois?
I tell you what, I can barely hear you, John.
That's okay.
And I don't know why that is.
I think it's probably your headphones.
I've got the volume all the way up on my unit here.
Okay. So didn't Dallas's dad have a shop in Gibson City, Illinois? And if so, what kind of work did you do with him there? Did he do any machine work or anything for you? Yeah, folks, I'm sorry about our tech problems tonight. I think it's just StreamYard probably is demanding more bandwidth than ever. And I think where we used to be able to stream with Deke back when it was 720 and things like that, I think that's one thing. I think now it probably demands a little bit more than Deke's got internet for. I suspect that. You guys who are more tech savvy than me, feel free to weigh in on it. But we'll give Deke a chance to come back, and we'll just roll with it. I mean, we got the evening. Levi says, "What's up, everybody? We are late. Liver biopsy went well this morning. Now just wait for the results. Should have them Tuesday. Work on Duramax this evening." Well, cool, man. We'll be positive and see where it goes.
Yeah, so
all right.
No bueno on the sound.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, like I said, I can't hear you, John.
Okay.
Just
I'm
barely.
sorry about that, but you can freestyle. I'm gonna put up some stuff. Hang on a minute. I'll let you tell them about that.
That's a car I went up and bought that in Lansing, Michigan about 3 years ago. That car was ran without a body as a small block altered, 383 altered with a blower. And I didn't fit in it. It took two people. Once I climbed in, it took two people to pry me out of it. And my wife said, "Well, you can fix all that." And the guy sold it to me so reasonably priced, I couldn't turn it down. And that's the car I currently work on when I get the time and the motivation.
Yeah, good thing there was no fire. And let's put up another. Why don't you tell us about that one? What do we have there, Mr. Deke? Dang, if he's not frozen again. Boy, it's a rough evening for technology at the Denney household. This is Brooke, by the way. He has hemochromatosis, which is basically an overload of iron in the body. Unsure why. Hoping liver biopsy will give us answers. Okay, well, I will say I just hope that he has good care and everything he needs, and to get all healed up. We sure look forward to seeing you guys as often as we can, which is usually for most of us at No Name Nationals. But, we hope to see you soon, and hope Levi is as healthy and you as you can possibly be. But yes, give Levi our regards. Yeah, these are pictures that Deke had sent me. That's a chassis that he had. A little smaller than that black chassis, but I don't know what the story is on it. It looks like it's got a grill shell, like a Model T style grill shell. So I think that's kind of how it's intended to be dressed out. But so we see that chassis. I don't know if you can hear me. Looks like it's
okay. I can hear you now.
Oh, you can.
Now you're coming through my headset. So
awesome.
If we can just keep from dropping out. I bought this chassis dirt cheap without the rear end and without the rear slicks and wheels, and Oh my God, Ty Harrison, how you doing, buddy?
I sent this to his boys today because I know both of them, and I'm glad he popped in here. Yeah, so ironically, half a world away here in Virginia, I sold both of his sons a house. And so I let them know today that we'd have Deke on tonight.
I don't know what, and man, you were coming in clear there for a minute. And now it's
probably
I don't have
internet.
you.
Probably not quite enough. Probably not quite enough internet. But anyway, thanks for coming by, sir. I appreciate you. I let Tyler and Weston know that we were going to have Deke on tonight. And I still would love to do a feature on your 69 Super B and 67 GTS. So let me know. I'd love to do that sometime. You would never have to twist my arm to go see a 69 Super B. Thank you for coming by. Oh, and I will say we are fighting, for those of you just joining, we're fighting some technology problems on Deke's end. He's having a hard time hearing me.
I hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me, but you can freestyle and tell us about anything you want to tell us about.
Okay.
I suspect it's the limited internet is causing most all of the problems. They're all gaming. That's where they are. Yes, we know Dallas is working on some health challenges now himself, but I'm really glad he's getting a handle on them, as with Levi and all of you. I'm probably healthier than I deserve to be at this point. Wow, won a 66 Belvedere Hemi car now too. Well, hey, do let me know. I would love to do a feature on your rides. Let me know when we can do that. I'd love to do it. If you want to see what a feature of mine looks like, go to my playlist and you'll see where I did a 3-part feature with Hemi Stan, a guy we call Hemi Stan, and he's out in Pocosin. And he has a one of 38 Stripe Delete 69 Super B Hemi car and a bunch of other stuff. And you can see that. And I'd love to do a feature with you and your rides too, sir. Just let me know when. One of 66 Belvedere Hemi car now. Man, I need to see that. Yeah, just let me know. Just let me know. Tyler Weston can get you my contact info, and we'll work it out. I don't even have to ask how many people in the chat would like to see your rides featured. There's probably more Mopar people in the chat than any other brand, even though everything else is very well represented, like our Fords here and our Chevrolets here and our Buicks, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of Mopar people in the chat would like to see that. We'll give Deke a chance. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's such a small world, though. Who would have ever known that Deke over in the Midwest, and I would just happen to know we'd have this connection through some mutual friends like that. It's just such a small world. Nobody racing Toyo's No Name Nationals? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. All right. Yeah, Left Turn Dodge remembers when Mopars were the minority. Yes. Not anymore. Deke, are you able to hear us? I'm not sure, but I suspect it's the headphones. If you're able to hear us, that's great. But you can freestyle and tell us about anything you'd like. Are you able to hear us, Deke? Because we can hear you.
That sound has got me buffaloed, John.
Yeah, I
I've
don't
got
know.
everything up as high as it'll go on my phone.
I bet it's the headphone plugged in too. I agree. I'm going to try this. I'm betting if we unplug the headphones, we'll be able to hear us.
They are. There's nothing plugged in.
Ah, okay. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me try this. I'll put that up. We'll let Deke respond. Got to get a little bit creative to try this. I'm going to leave that up for Deke and see what he says. He'll either come in the chat or come back on the screen, either way. But we do our very best.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good to me, John.
This is.
I don't know. This thing's always worked great before, and it's not a very old phone, so.
I suggest this. Yeah, just freestyle.
Yeah, I could rattle on. I could rattle on some stories about Ty and I, but some of them might not have a statute of limitations. I need to come out and visit you, John, and I need to bring Ty his 67 440 block and his 727 transmission for his GTX.
Yes.
It's been stored here for 14 years. Yeah. Ty and I did a lot of stuff together, went to a lot of Mopar shows, and we saw a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting things. His 69 Super B is absolutely top notch. He's got a trophy from the Mopar Nats down at St. Louis, as tall as I am, to prove it. Very nice car, very well executed.
And by the way, Mr. Harrison, if you want to get my number from one of your boys and send me a picture or get them to, I'm happy to put it up on the screen. It's up to you. But yeah, the floor is yours, Deke.
Yeah, I don't know what I can tell you guys. Obviously, I won't be able to hear your.
Yeah, it's a shame because we definitely had enough internet to have Deke before.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Never had any trouble with this before.
Probably the changes to StreamYard is what his difficulty is.
Somebody said when your settings
Okay.
Might be worth your while to switch phones. It's a thought. But anyway, so yeah, we don't let Deke just freestyle, which is totally great. we're going to let him do what he wants to try. Of course, we can always bring him back. In fact, I'd like to do some testing so we can bring him back. And as for right now, or just use another phone for sound. Switch phones, use another for sound. Yep.
I don't know if I can switch phones or not.
Useful entertainment. How's it going, sir? I would love to see you guys back at No Name Nationals this year if you could make it. I like seeing the two cars come out.
I don't know if I can switch phones or not.
Useful entertainment. How's it going, sir? I know. I would love to.
So,
see the two cars come out. Major Tom to ground control. Yeah, howdy and useful entertainment. It's good to see you. We're having tech problems tonight, but we've got our tech inspector, Deke Denney, on. I wanted to do something a little bit more biographical with him tonight because he's got so many cool stories and racing history, and I thought it would be good to have him on. He's also good friends with Dallas's father, and got some technology gremlins tonight, but that said, we'll work through it, and we'll definitely, whether we get this worked out or not, we'll definitely have Deke back on. We have him back at least once or twice a year anyway, but we'll work this out because there's a lot of good stuff here, and we don't want to shortchange you guys, so we're going to work it out. Yeah, glad you're here. You guys getting good use out of the two-car trailer? I'd love to see that combo come back to Sykeston. Busy said, had two young guys in a 94 Camaro SS convertible revving it up and giving me the eye. Caught him by a fender. Got mad. The guy got mad and flipped him off. Vagrant doing good. Sounds like a sight. Took that comment away. Bring Deke back. There we go. Deke,
I'm back. I'm back with no sound.
Okay, but the floor is yours.
So yeah, Ty and I go back probably to the early 2000s, and I don't know. We kind of met by accident. I built an engine for his neighbor's '69 Chevelle, and I was getting it running for the first time for him. And we got it running, got it warmed up, got the cam broke in, swapped the oil and stuff, and was going to let it cool. And my buddy, he was a lot younger than me. He said, "Hey, I want you to meet my neighbor." So we walked down the sidewalk to the next door. And there's two guys out there working on this really nice '69 Super B. And I probably shouldn't tell this story on Ty, but he's too old to get embarrassed. But we were looking at it, and he's explaining how he made the adapters to make the kickdown linkage work, and he had to put a carb spacer on it to get the carburetor linkage to clear the intake manifold on a 383 that was originally in the car, right? Mm-hmm. And I looked at it, and I looked at him, and of course we're drinking beer, and I said, well, if you would turn the intake manifold around and put the choke on the passenger side, your throttle linkage would clear. And he got real quiet. And I thought he was mad at me, but no, that was all it needed. And we've been friends ever since. Haven't talked in a long time now because he lives way out in by God, Virginia. But yeah, we had some good times. I built the engine. Right, I built the engine for the 440 that was in the Super B. I don't know if it's still in there or not. It run pretty good. I think I built the transmission too. Sweet car. Wait till you see it. It's beautiful.
Oh, I want to do a feature on it, so hopefully we'll be able to do that soon.
And you had expressed to me that you know Tyler, his son.
Right.
And probably Weston too, because he's a diesel dazzler out there in the hills.
Had dinner with Weston.
Good boys.
Had dinner
Good
with
boys,
Weston
both of them.
Yes, indeed. Great guys. I like them both.
Absolutely. They come from good stock, I'll tell you that.
Yep.
But yeah, anyway, that was me and Ty when we go to Mopar shows, and we'd always find a reason to drink beer somewhere and drive fast. And love a Dodge, you know. I was a Chevy guy when I started out. 57 Chevy, 55 Chevy. I did when I was in high school, I had a 454 and a 55 Chevy. And it looked a lot like, it didn't have the tilt front end, but it looked a lot like two-lane blacktop.
Yeah.
I perfected the art of breaking Muncie 4-speeds in half. And then I had a 70 Monte Carlo 454 4-speed car. And it, too much insurance, too much gasoline. I got rid of that. And as I was going along, those were my daily driver stuff, you know, and 66 Impala SS, 65 Impala SS. And I started to see a theme where everybody was driving Chevys. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of like them Dodges. I worked for the same guy my dad worked for, and his son in 1971 ordered a 71 GTX 444 speed, 410 gear in it. They talked him out of buying the Hemi for it at the dealership because he was just getting ready to go to college. And it was funny because he got the cassette player that mounted to the hump from the factory from Dodge or from Plymouth. That was $390 for that cassette tape recorder. It came with a microphone so you could record on it. The Hemi was $160 some option if he would have bought the Hemi. So the stereo was way more money than the damn Hemi would have been. And the lady that owned the dealership talked him out of it because of the insurance. And man, that was a beautiful car. I know where it's at right now. It was sat in the garage here until 2 years ago. And somebody out in Arizona bought it. A friend of mine in Arizona bought it. So I just kind of got into the Mopars. And then nowadays, when I feel like it, I work on my race car a little bit, but there's always something else that gets in the way. I've got 3 acres to mow. You know how it goes, John. Life gets in the way, doesn't it? So yeah, that's about all I got, and I haven't raced anything in a few years. I still might enjoy getting out on the track once in a while if I had something. And I'm like say that black altered is the one I'm building now, and I'll probably take the body off the white one and put on the black chassis. I've got all the stuff. I've got the tranny. All I got to do is put the pump in it and set the bands. I got a converter from my good friend Shane Polito, and I've got all the parts, all the Ohio crankshaft stuff to do a 408 stroker. Got a pair of aluminum heads, and it's part of it's about the chase. You chase the parts and make sure you get the best parts, and of course these days you got to go through everything and make sure it's what it needs to be. Just because it comes out of a new box doesn't mean it's ready to bolt on. But other than that, I'm just kind of biding my time.
Deke is locked up at the minute. But yeah, talk about things out of the box doesn't mean they'll fit, which is true because I've just gone through that with the aluminum radiator. And I did find my connections for the transmission cooler lines. They'll be here tomorrow. So there's a chance by the end of the weekend, I just might have a radiator in my van. Finally. And because I can get the proper fittings, I don't have to use those steel fuel lines. It'll be so much easier. I'll be able to make them with copper like I want to. And so I'm very glad for all of that. But yeah, we're just rolling. We want to do the first half kind of biographical nature like this. And the second half, people have any tech questions. That said, this is kind of rough on old Deke, trying to work like this because I suspect it's his internet bandwidth out there, but I could be wrong. Thank you, Barrows. I appreciate that. As you guys know, I don't solicit super chats, but anything that drifts in here goes in the No Name Nationals General Fund and is appreciated. So thank you, sir. Yeah, I ordered mine directly from Alloy Works, and in fairness, I think they just had some weird application stuff. They do have one that looks like it would fit better, but it's still got a pretty short core, and it's just too short for the factory shroud. But that said, I did find a 2000 Dodge radiator, and I am trying some experiments on cleaning the inside of it now. That's the last thing I've got to do. I found my cooler lines. Hello, Irish Outlaw Jay. Thanks for coming by, my man. We hope to see you again soon if it's in the cards for you. Thanks for coming by. Blue Grit Garage says, I went on a family camping trip last weekend and it felt hotter than my garage. Yeah, I like the heat. I'm good with it. But it's all good. We got Deke back. Ty's saying, you told me once nothing worse than extracting exhaust manifold pump than doing it by yourself. Showed up with a case of beer. Sounds about right.
We got her done, by gosh. And it was a day as hot as today, but I got her fixed. We sure had some good times.
I would agree with that, Dakota. All right. So we're switching over. Now we're going to go to these kind of things. Deke, the tech guy, I'd like to know if a set of aftermarket lap belts will pass tech. My stock belts have rips in a few places. What say you, Mr. Deke? Are we locked up again? We may need to postpone and drop back and punt. In fact, let me just try this. I'm going to give Deke a call. Okay, I'm back. What I did is I just muted the sound real quick. I let Deke know that we're going to try to work this out. He has been on several live streams with me before. We've never had this problem. So something is a little off, but I figured let's just go ahead and do that. What I will do, though, is I'm going to give him top priority on the schedule, and we're going to get him back on to address any tech questions. We just need to work this out, and we'll work it out somehow. We'll definitely work it out. But anyway, I love having Deke on, and we're definitely going to reschedule this. So, but anyway, I want to welcome Scrap Iron Racing. Thank you for coming out. Yeah, that's because I just wanted to mute that call real quick. Yes, I muted myself. Yes, I know, no sound. But I did that purposefully. Correct, Dougster got it. Yes, that is correct. And yes, we're going to get you an answer to that Vintage Adventure Drives. Typically, your factory lap belts are okay for cars unless they're running to a certain ET. And I was thinking that was something like 639, I think. But that said, there does come a point where you have to have a harness in the car. And as far as tears in your seat belts, well, I guess it depends which belts have tears and what. They're supposed to be in good condition. So this is something usually what I'll say is send me a picture ahead of time. I'll get it to Deke. We're going to make sure to try to get you an answer before. So we don't like for people to travel from a great distance to then have trouble when they get there. Yeah, we're going to get more stories. We're going to work this out with Deke. I'm going to do some tech testing with him. We didn't do a tech test before this live because he's been on several before. So sorry about that. We're going to work through it. It will be worth the wait. We will have Deke back on. And I'm looking forward to it. So Deke is a good friend, and he's a valuable asset to the community as well. So we're definitely going to have him back on. I want to give him high priority on the schedule. And speaking of the schedule, sometime pretty soon we're going to have Just Mopar Joe on for a biographical style live, similar to what we did with Ron Ward and we attempted to do with Deke tonight. So, hello, Levi. I hope you're going to get that hardship license this year to get back to high school. Loving this rivalry. Love how Joe is the old man in the rivalry, and yet I'm 11 years older than Joe. Makes me feel ancient. That make me old enough to be Levi's proud grandfather, Joe? Is that what that means? Yeah, the signal gods are not with Deke tonight, but we're going to work that out. We're going to have him back. We'll have him back. And we've had him on several lives before and not had this trouble, so we're going to get it straightened out. Yeah, we're going to work that out, Vintage Adventure Drives. That's why I say please send it early. Yeah, and Deke can hear me loud and clear on YouTube. That's what I'm saying. I know the sound is broadcasting because believe me, if it doesn't, I got 50 people telling me. So I got the perfect test on the other side of that. But yeah, you're welcome to chime in anything in the comments. We just don't want to shortchange you. So that's why I'm saying we'll just and we'll definitely work this out with you, Deke. We absolutely want to have you back. And yes, Brooke is running the account for Levi, so she's going to have to tell him secondhand what you've got there. I did a video last year on what we need to pass tech at No Name Nationals for cars slower than 769. So there you go, Vintage Adventure Drives. I will tell you, we do have a real tech program. We do have real tech. And every car on the track every driver must have a helmet. Okay, and we do have a speed cutoff for passengers, but it's pretty generous. I think we give you to a 640 to have a passenger, but the passenger has to have all of the same stuff that the driver does for the ET. And but the passing tech for cars slower, like Mohawk says, the 769 or something like that, it is very reasonable. But we do need to have some things that are properly done. And a lot of that is just stuff you should do on your street cars anyway, like proper lug nut thread engagement, an overflow bottle for your radiator, at least 16 ounces, these kinds of things. If your battery is relocated to the trunk, it must have an off-on switch to the back of the car and these kind of things, okay? So we just need to make sure people have their stuff up to par when they come to the track. We pride ourselves on having an event where we do have real tech, and we hold ourselves to that standard. Yeah, Joe says Brooke might put me in my place. Indeed. Levi says, a.k.a. Brooke, subbing for Levi, says, better be careful. I got my teaching license. I'm going to give some purple Mopar owners some hard lessons. Oh, man. Look out. Yeah, and passengers can ride, but passengers do have to meet the same safety standard, which is not difficult, especially on a slower car. Yeah, $8.95 and slower patch equal to driver. Yeah, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. And we've allowed, passengers in cars quicker than that, but you do have to meet the same safety standard. We have a stellar safety record at the No Name Nationals, and I absolutely want to keep it that way. So a ride on the wheelie bars with 2 hacks, Jeff, is out of the question. I have a helmet. Yes, Bear Rose. I think that is highly unlikely. Who was that guy that he's real super popular. Who was the dude that actually rode on the bed of a truck down the track and caught all kinds of flack for? Some guy did that for an attention stunt. That was so stupid. Dakota's saying 13 out of 16 lug nuts ain't too bad. My battery terminals are wore out, so it's like a cutoff switch, low on coolant. Well, if you're not going to be there, none of that matters now, does it? So Turbo Tom had to have a helmet? Yes, he does. Anybody going down the track has to have a helmet. And I'm going to tell you this. Let's just say, now we didn't allow any bracket racing, from a 16-second Model T versus, say, an 8-second car. But just imagine this. What if you had a bracket race with a Model T that was 2/3 of the way down the track before the other car ever left? And that car's coming up on the back of that T. Isn't that a real good reason for that slower car to have a helmet? Yes, it is. Hello, Jody Pearson. Thanks for coming by. Evil Knievel? No, yeah, JJ the Boss. He's the one who did that. Joe, you should race Dylan Levi's the best of 3. Chances are it won't make 2 passes in a row. Boy, tell you what, Levi's a lightning rod. He even gets it from the president of the AHRA. Indirect Connections here now. Howdy. How you doing, Jason? Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what, though. I will say, to Levi's credit, he takes it in good stride. And in that said, everybody here knows without any question, we all truly love Levi. He's a good dude. And both of them are wonderful people. But I'm glad they can kid like they do. Yeah, I know. Well, here's the thing, though. All the kidding that Dallas gives him about that stuff, because I'll tell you, Levi's had some terrible luck and some big blow-ups at the track and stuff. But when, not if, but when Levi runs that 5-second pass in Sykes, it's going to be really sweet, and every one of these people is going to be congratulating him. He has earned it. And I believe it's going to happen, and I believe it's going to happen in Sykeston, and I think that's what we're going to see. Gentle jabs or motivational words. And I got to tell you, it really seems like that's Levi's attitude about us. So that's a good thing. Dallas is looking at statistically. Well, yeah, statistically, the stats aren't Levi's favor. But I think that he has made great strides since last year. And I believe he's going to bring a 5-second car to Sykeston. That's what I think is going to happen. However, I also think Joe is too. Wheel Hop did it in. I'll tell you, that track was hooking. We had some problems getting that track to hook up with the second annual No Name Nationals. There were some reasons for that. And the track wasn't all it could be for the second annual. However, Possum was committed to getting that track hooking hard for the third annual. And if you've watched the intro, for those of you who are never here right when this live starts, I've got an intro that shows you all kinds of wheel stands from the first annual or from the third annual No Name Nationals. And yeah, that track was hooking hard. I mean, you know, we saw the duck, put it on the back bumper. I mean, that track was hooking hard. I've considered Levi a friend since the first time we met him. Oh, yeah. He and Brooke are great people. Love having them here. Let's see here. Ken 517. Perhaps Main Street Mopar is in. So next up on our list to try to get over the 500 mark, Stinger Salvage is really close. Vintage Adventure Drives, you're talking a $5.99 or a 5.0. I say 5-second cars are $5.99, but they're going to get there. I predict that we're going to see both Levi and Joe crank off something that begins with a 5 in Sykeston. I can see it happening. Deke said he forgot working on the event winning, I believe that's Top Alcohol Dragster of Keith Stark in 2006, wrenched on Alan Johnson's Pro Stock Dodge. #1 qualifier Columbus that year. Hey, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. That's when Roy and Alan Johnson were winning a lot of races. That was a few years before the switch to fuel injection. Mrs. One-Eyed Cat is here. Howdy. What is the primary track prep, radial or slick? It is primarily bracket prep, like for slicks. They have had some radial events there, but I would not count on prep to that level. I would count on bracket prep. But that said, they can make that track hook, and Possum does a really good job. And they use PJ1. They use good glue. He does what he needs to do to deliver us a good racing surface. And I would expect a good surface, but I would not expect these outrageous surfaces that these radial prep for 3-second, 8th-mile radial cars run on. No, Danny boy, that will be a negative. Didn't Alan Johnson run Oldsmobiles earlier? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Seems like I kind of heard that. But when you say Alan Johnson, ALAN, would you be talking about the Top Fuel, Alan Johnson, crew chief, or would you be talking about Alan Johnson, the pro stocker? That's ALLEN. And here's the link to Indecisive Garage, Tim's channel. He's at 261. He's got 239 to go, and we're gonna try to work on something for those guys. I've got an idea, and I think they're gonna like it. I hope, but I think it's going to be what they need. I want a 100% graduation rate from the No Name 500, and we could do that this year. Busted Radio Garage. He says hello, John and chat. Swinging through for a minute while closing shop. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming by, and. We'll be hopefully seeing Chris sooner than later. More to come on that pretty soon. Dougster says he loves the Cooper tires. They are cool. They've never been quite my cup of tea, but they are cool. They're good-looking classic tires, classic white letters. 38 races. I've never really understood the track prep stuff. If you have the right car, you'll learn it the hard way if you have to. Thank you for coming by, Chris. I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate how he likes to greet everyone, as do I. That's kind of a tradition here, and it means a lot to me. It says a lot about us in this community when people like to do that. Vintage Adventure Drive says my car is sporting Cooper Cobras all the way around. The rear is a 295 5015. Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that. Deke says, correct on Allen and Allen. Allen and Roy own several Amoco stations in Greenville, Tennessee. That is correct. I believe they went to marathons later. 38 races says, I'll be running non-drag radials. Don't know what setup it has. Yeah. Busted Radio Garage has been trying to stuff a blown 360 in a Yugo. I'm an idiot. Sounds great to me. Boy, that Yugo you got there, what a blast from the past. You never know what you're going to be pulling home. Is that supposed to be a burnout car? I'm guessing so. And if so, you're going to be practically sitting on that rear tire, aren't you? Assuming it's going to be rear-wheel drive. Danny Boyd says Amicos used to be branded American stations in Ohio in the 70s. Didn't know that. Now, this is worth mentioning right here. Dougster Wolverine Garage says Coopers are still made in the USA and they will break belts. However, usually when they do it, it's time to replace them anyway. They wear well too. I've never run them. I know they're very popular tires. I know one thing too, I'm also really good at breaking belts and tires because I run them way too long. Hot Rod Guy Garage Russell says Cooper Cobras are the white letter tire to have now since BFG decided the radial TAs were gold plated. Yeah, although I still have a good set kept out of the UV and everything of my Goodyear Eagle STs, and I have a new old stock set of my Goodyear Eagle STs. The local tire shop was discontinuing them 20 some years ago, and I bought them for $40 a piece. I bought 4. So I've got 5 of those that have never been on the ground. So hopefully if I take care of them, they'll last a really long time. Clayton's Toolbox says I have Cooper Cobras on my Pinto. Good stuff. Yeah, I miss the classic white letter tires. It's just not a thing like it used to be because cars aren't a thing like they used to be. Dougster's got 369 subs. We'd like to see Dougster race the No Name Nationals. He can do it if he wants to. The Dougster's a talented guy and a good promoter. He can do it. The ST was a good-looking tire. I think so. Danny Boyd says, you know what else breaks belts? When the tire sits flat for a long time and the rubber cracks and water gets in and rusts the steel belts. All of which is true, except when you keep them inside out of the UV light, unmounted and everything. But that said, I would imagine tires do evaporate and outgas out the plasticizers in the rubber that keep them flexible. So I don't know how necessarily long a tire like that even keeps good even under those circumstances. Vintage Adventure Drive says, my Pinto is a set of BF Goodrich tires in 205/6013. They're less than 23 inches tall. Yeah, that setup sounds about that, yeah. I just bought 2 used tires, sight unseen. I'm going to pick them up tomorrow. Yeah, Busted Radio said the Yugo community said they couldn't do it. First of all, there's a Yugo community, first of all. And second of all, what in the world does the Yugo community know about doing that? Because the kind of people who would do this are not going to be Yugo community people. They're going to be telling you to save that 9/10 of a liter, whatever it is, or whatever came in those things. Which is fine. I'm really glad there are Yugo purists out there. And I do not mean that facetiously. I'm serious. The Yugo has a neat little niche in automotive history. It came along as a really cheap alternative driver. I believe they made them like 86, 7, 8, 9, something like that, about 4 years there. And they met American crash test to import. Stuff like that doesn't even meet crash tests anymore. And that's the only thing that's kept Chinese cars out of our market. They don't pass crash tests. So, you know, that was kind of the end of that era when those kind of cars could be imported and driven. And really, really cheap. The Yugo new, even then, was $3,000. Brand new. I've never driven one. Indecisive Garage says, I run Mickey Thompson currently, but looking to switch to Hoosier. Both good tires. I guess just depends on what you're running and what benefits you the most. I know certain people swear by each. Don wants to just lower the tire pressure and make some passes on some Cooper Cobras. Yep, you can do that. We're going to see that Valiant of Don's run its best time ever, I predict. I've heard you should store them in plastic bags because the ozone in the basement is bad for tire. Well, these aren't in the basement. They're in the building. But that said, you're probably right. Mater's Workshop said, Busted Radio Garage, where you go, I don't go. Understandable. Big Mike says his mom drove a Yugo for a couple of years and it was great on mileage. They should have been. I think they were over 40 miles a gallon. I had a friend with a Yugo. My other friend would pick up the rear end for a party trick. I could see that. That's absolutely something I would have tried to do probably when I was about 30 years old. Mexican Spec says, I'm not missing out on anything not having driven a Yugo. I kind of disagree. I like a lot of these cool little different cars like that. I wouldn't mind driving one. There is something super cool about driving a VW Beetle. I'll say this. You've either driven a Volkswagen Beetle or you have not, and there's no in between. I love those cars. Barrow says Yugo was actually a good car for what it was. If you couldn't afford anything else, a Yugo would get you to work long enough to get what you really wanted. Something about a Yugo says I should have like a rifle rack in the back with the AK. I mean, after all, it came from Yugoslavia, and so did a lot of AKs. Vintage Adventure Drive says, I'm thinking about running my Cooper Cobras at No Name Nationals just to save my 8 1/4 from breaking. Well, if you're going to break, that's not a bad place to break. You certainly have a lot of help there. Busted Radio Garage says, I'm using a CJ5 chassis, converting it to two-wheel drive rear, throwing the body on with some goodies and boom. Whoa, that sounds wild. And are you going into burnout pit with that? Is that what that's made for, Chris, or just something to run around in? Because I know you do other stuff than burnouts, but that is kind of what you're famous for. Mexican Spectator, the Yugo will get you there, but it was not a good car when new or after that personal experience. But they did have a lot of, fitment issues and stuff like that, and they did have their problems. They were not investment heirloom cars, that's for sure. Clayton's Toolbox has some used Mickey Thompson radials. They're old and don't hook. Well, this is true. The only thing you can really do with ancient slicks like that is use them to check fitment. So let's say that you're going to do some cutting and moving and whatnot. Just get a pair of trashed slicks from somebody that need to just go in the trash, mount them up so that you can use that to fit the tires. And then, get your proper tires. That's the value in old junk tires like that. Is just use them to fit your combination. Mexican Spec, a Beetle, yes, but the seating position Yugo is very weird, not comfortable. That's okay. I don't think the seating position in a Beetle's comfortable at all. I'm not talking about wanting to drive it to see how well it drives. I don't care about that. I want to drive one because it would be really different. I did not know that, Buff. Malcolm Bricklin brought the Yugo to the U.S. I had no idea. That's very cool to know. Dougster says, lady driving a Yugo was blown off the Mackinac Bridge in Michigan. Sadly, she did not survive. Look it up. It's real. I can believe that. Did you spell Mackinac Bridge right? I thought it ended in a C. Justin Hill says, hello, I guess from the wilds of Idaho. Vintage Adventure Drive says, I've driven a 69 Super Beetle and a 67 Beetle. They were super fun, but not in good enough condition to be practical. Did they even make a Super Beetle in 69? I thought those came out in 71. If it had a curved windshield, it was a Super Beetle. Curved windshield and McPherson front struts. Those are two ways to identify a Super Beetle. Deke Denney said, years ago, we rejuvenated a pair of dried out slicks with strawberry-scented dishwashing liquid, the cheap stuff. Wipe the slicks down with a sponge in the liquid, sidewalls and all. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Never heard of such a thing. I've always used dishwashing liquid to mount them and just rubbed it on the inside because I have seen people keep them from losing air, running them tubeless when you wipe them down with dishwashing liquid. It helps seal up the pores in the slicks. Matt Travers drove a VW Beetle back in '84 because his then girlfriend's mom had one, and AOUN. I don't even know what that means, but they are cool cars. I like them very much. And if you've not seen it, there's a short on my channel of a '74 Super Beetle with a Honda Goldwing engine in it and custom transaxle. And that's a short I just put up on my channel. And he has actually expressed interest in bringing it to No Name Nationals. So if you want to see that, jump in the comments and tell him. He's got to get some subscribers and make it happen. Chris says, yes, it's for the burnout pit. Well, that just sounds wild to me. Sounds like a riding mower, not riding mower, probably pretty close. Jason says, me and a buddy picked up the back of a Horizon, nailed my knee on the way back down. I could see that. Indecisive Garage confirms they had a Yugo get blown off the bridge. Yep. And Dougster just mentioned it, yes. The steering column is positioned like a bus. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I thought it was 72 or 3 even. I was thinking it was 71. If you guys want to look that up, I'd be interested to know. I was thinking the Super Beetle's first year was 71. Busted Radio says, taking Monzilla to Mexico for a test burnout in a few minutes. Well, be safe and have a good time. I hope it goes well. And we hope to see you soon, Chris. I kind of figured that, Dougster, but that is one word I'm actually familiar with. This one had the struts up front of the curve, so it definitely was a Super Beetle. The question is, what year? The 2 worst cars I've ever owned, Bear Road says. Number 1 was a 96 Ford Taurus. Yeah, I'll grant you that. 74 Volvo 2-door sedan. Both of them I got rid of in less than a month at a hard loss with no regrets. Okay, well, I can see that. They're fans of the Volvo for sure. I don't know about the Taurus. I don't know if any curved Taurus fans out there. Blue Grit says Trabants are different. The engine will still run when the car is on its roof. Yikes. Let's see. Yes, that was my short. Deke said got 3 weekends out of the slicks. Enough time till the new slicks arrive. So you got just a little bit of life out of them. That works pretty well. Buff says he'd like to drive one. I don't even know what it is. That Goldwing powered Beetle sounds so weird. Oh, yeah, it did. I heard it in the parking lot, and I thought it was something else. Some guy said, yeah, you can see with that Beetle out there. It's got a motorcycle engine. So I went out and I heard it, and I just ran into him at O'Reilly. In the Yugo's defense, it was a pretty stiff wind. Maybe so. First year 71, that's kind of what I thought. 38 Racing says only 53 days until we leave for No Name Nationals 2025. Got to get back to work? Yes, it's coming. And I actually, today, I got the sign shop redoing our welcome banner, updating it, and I've always got little things I do throughout the year. Stuff's got to happen. 71, 71. That's what I was thinking. Although I like all those Beetles and all of those. First generation Taurus wasn't bad. Later they got ugly. You know, yeah, I think the first generation Taurus, the 85, I thought that was a pretty good car. They did a good job with that. But, man, when they went to that rounded up one, yuck. I had a buddy that had several of those. Mexican Spec said I brought a new 90. He bought a new 97 Taurus wagon. Should have gotten the good engine, though. Well, what is the good engine? August of 70 for the Super Beetle 71 model year. That is correct. August 11th of 70. That sounds exactly right. Scrap Iron Racing says my first car was a 62 Beetle. Love it. I would say a 62 Beetle is probably the best looking, best Beetle ever made. Honest to goodness. Because the 62 is the first year of the gas gauge. It was the last year of the Wolfsburg crest on the trunk lid. 62 still had the small glass. I just think a 62 was probably the best looking VW Beetle ever made. Love that car. With the little roll roof and 70, burnt the engine twice, sold it after the third one running. Yeah, Beetles, you just got to love those cars for what they are. Vintage Adventure Drives expects 1,000 subscribers by No Name Nationals as long as the trend continues. Yep, it can happen. Dean said the Super Beetle had a windscreen that looked kind of beetle brown. Well, it was round. It was round window glass in those cars. The rest of them were all flat. Dallas says, I always wanted to build a 93 to 95 Taurus SHO wagon. That actually sounds pretty cool. Sounds cool if you're doing the work on it. Because I know that there is some kind of big major service that has to be done on those Kawasaki engine Taurus SHOs that everybody dreaded. And I don't know what it was, but it was some kind of big involved service that had to be done. And people like to get rid of them before that was necessary. It was like at 80,000 miles or something like that. So you guys can tell me what all that was. Junkyard D says, what are we talking about? Crappy cars? Well, a couple. Talking about good stuff and junk all at the same time. Buff says the 3.0 was the engine different. Yeah, the 3.0 was a much better engine. I generally, when I see under the hood and there's something forward, I just run in general. Vintage Adventure Drives, I have to double check with the owner of the Beetle. I heard the year one time 4 years ago when the kid was about 17. Yeah, if it had a curved glass, I mean, it was 71 up. But that said, they're all cool. They're all cool cars. I like them all. And they made that Beetle, I want to say, up till 2003 in South America because they don't have all the crash and EPA and fuel standards and all that stuff. So in Mexico, they made them, I think, to 96. And in Brazil, they made them to 2003. But I believe American imports, you would see them into the mid-70s and even late 70s. Air-cooled VWs are for people that like to tinker constantly. I don't know that it's as much tinker as people who are willing to continuously keep up with the maintenance. They constantly need stuff. I mean, everything about them. You have two case halves that bolt together and then cylinder sleeves that go on that and then the heads. And then that's all bolted together. And then you have your push rod tubes between the heads, the block, and they leak and all that stuff. So if you just look at the way the engine itself is constructed, it's like there's no wonder those things constantly need work. They do constantly need work, especially if you're going to hop one up. But that said, they're cool. You just got to appreciate them for what they are and not long for what they're not. If you get a VW Beetle and you're just trying to compare it to something modern with a modern engine block and a modern build method, modern hardware and all that, you'll never be happy. But it's kind of like a 1911 pistol. If you want to constantly be working on something and constantly cleaning something and all of that stuff, great, knock yourself out. But don't buy a 1911 then complain because it needs way more stuff than Glocks do. It's just the nature of it. You have to like it for what it is, not for what it's not. And that's what a Beetle is. I love the Beetle, but I know what it is, and I know what I'm in for. I know the older ones have 437 gears. You know, you're not driving that thing on the interstate. I know that Beetles have that swing axle and all that stuff. So they're a niche, and you got to like them for what they are. But that said, I love them. Blue Grit says, I'm going with what was said at the Museum of Transportation when they raffled one off. I was not lucky enough to win. Maybe it was lucky. Old McDonald said, my first car was a 71 Scamp with a slant six. That sounds like a great first car. Sounds like a first car I bet you wish you still had. Dean says, I've always had trouble finding where to put the antifreeze on rear-engine Volkswagens. That's because you've been looking at the wrong Volkswagen. The one I did the short on had a radiator in the trunk up front, and it's a rear-engine car. So there you go. You were just looking at the wrong car. Matt Travers said the Ford 3.0 heads look like the FE heads. I won't get close enough to a Ford engine to note that. Cope said he left the shop at 5 and just got to the lake. Howdy. Glad you're coming by here and have a good time at the lake. Unfinished Project said my dad's coworker pulled the rear seat of his Beetle looking for the radiator. I cannot imagine on what planet that was necessary if he had the hood up, but okay. Barrow's Garage says His was a 61, went to buy a 53 DeSoto Fire Dome coupe with the Hemi, but Dad talked me into buying the Bug instead. To this day, my dad owes me a Hemi, and I don't let him forget it. My dad talked me out of a 69 Roadrunner for $1,800. So I don't. Those stories are just kind of like, okay, I'm with you on that. But my dad certainly didn't owe me a thing. I miss him. But I did avenge that. I did get a 69 Roadrunner, and if I live long enough, I'll even do something with it. Yeah, I'm not even going to read that, but that reminds me of something this week. I won't even say. Cope had a brick oven pizza, a small one. Okay. Hope it was delicious. Blue Grit says the SHO were valve adjustments the factory was pushing, but the dealers would screw it up, so you're better off driving it and ignore the valve maintenance. It would run fine over 150,000 miles. 150,000. My CRV's got over twice that on it. And I mean, again, that's why I don't have stuff like that. Indirect connection trivia about VWs for the day. I can't wait. The Carmen Ghia was a 4-seat car from 55 to 74, yes. In 75, its last year, it was a 2-seater because it never had rear seat belts and they were required in 75. I had no idea. That's very interesting. Hot Rod Guy Garage says worked on many best VW. I love Volkswagen. That car is so ingenious. You know the story about why we have the Volkswagen? The Volkswagen was the car that took Germany away from the horse, like the Model T is what took us away from it. The Volkswagen was Germany's Model T. And so Hitler commissioned Ferdinand Porsche to build it. And so he took what he knew and what he did, and that's why there's so much Porsche DNA in the VW, and made something very cost-effective and what the cost had to be and what it had to do and the requirements and the speeds it had to run and all of that. And he pulled it off, and he made something that sold millions. I think there were over 20 million VW Beetles sold, and I just love those cars. People have driven Beetles across the country. I'm not that brave, but I might have to soon. I would do it. I would carry the parts. Of course, you're not going to get anything in a junkyard for one. So I'd carry all the parts I needed, but I'd do it. The transmissions in some Beetles doesn't have a 1-to-1 gear. It's straight to overdrive. Yeah, you can get what's called a freeway flyer transmission. You can get a rear gear in those things as much as a 388, and then you can get an overdrive. The only bad thing about that is at that point in time, with your RPM is so low on those cars, you're not turning your fan fast enough to properly cool the engine. So that takes working that part out. Get your fan driven the right speed to cool the engine with the RPM that low on the highway. But really and truly, those cars are just not meant for freeway driving. Matt Travers says, my first car was a 68 Mercury Monterey Fastback with a 390. That sounds really cool. Vintage Adventure Drive says, my dad has never talked me out of anything. I just disregard what he says and keep getting more cars, bikes, and trikes. Everybody's got a different deal with their dad. And all of us who have ever had a dad are lucky to have one. Mexican Spec said, I decided not to buy a 60 Chrysler because it was a stick shift. I wanted the push buttons. I was young and stupid. Well, that would probably describe all of us at one age or another. Barrow says, the cool thing about VW air-cooled, it was before German over-engineering. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So all that Euro trash they make now that is absolutely impossible to service or work on or anything is a huge no for me. It is a mountain of no for me. But the VW back when it was simple is wonderful. And then in the 80s, I even like the front-wheel drive, the Rabbit Golf, the trucks. I love those. In fact, if we had this terrible fuel economy being a permanent thing, $5 and $6 gallon gasoline, and oh man, please, paranoid people, we don't need to turn the communists into that. But That said, if that was going to be around forever, I was really wanting to build a greasel. Get one of those rabbit pickups and use that for a vegetable oil conversion. I thought that would be the coolest thing to build. But then fuel prices got back to quote unquote normal, and I didn't think much about it again. But that said, I think it'd be a neat swap to do. Buff said, when I was 17, my father wouldn't let me buy a 63 Ford with a 427. I had a 64 Ford with a 289, and he didn't understand why I wanted an older car. Yeah, I get that. My dad was not happy about my first car that I bought. He really was not happy, but he got over it. But he didn't like it. I bought my 69 Coronet for $800 back in the early 80s. Yep, and then those things took off, Super B or not. Ingeniously simple. Yes, they were. Wonderful cars. Yeah, Henry Ford didn't like the Beetle. Well, it's probably because it was insane competition for him. Took a big bite out of Ford when those cars started getting imported. And so Henry Ford would have lived for 8 years during the import of the Beetle. He died in 1963. He died July 30th, 1963, if I recall. The Beetles began American import in 1955. So how's that for flex on worthless VW trivia? Dallas says, back when the VW was new, the speed limit was 55. They did 55 just fine, except in the mountains. Yeah, really, for real. This is true. Vintage Adventure Drive says, my first car was a 76 Ford Gran Torino, the only car I've never actually worked on. It's biding its time for me to come by and start turning it. Yeah, well, it'll get there. You'll have to start doing stuff on it, but hopefully you still have it. Mexican Spec said, I just published an 84 VW Rabbit with a VR6 swap. It's a screamer. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having the VW Rabbit pickup, like from the early 80s, but I would want it with the 4-cylinder diesel. But that does sound cool. I just don't like overcomplicated stuff. Henry Ford died in 47. I believe he died in 19. I thought he died in 63. Now I want to look. No, sure enough. He was born in 1863. I thought he died in 1960. So okay, so 47 is when he died. So there we go. You're right. I had that wrong. But that said, he would have seen the original VW Beetles because they came out right before World War II. So I believe in 1938 is when they had the first Beetles. It got interrupted for World War II, and the British reopened the factory. So he did get to see the car come to fruition, just not the American imports. That's what I had wrong. Thank you for letting me know that. He was born in 1863, July 30th. But no, you are correct. Died April 7th of 47. I had his birthday all mixed up in that. My bad. They brought cars over here to test right-hand drive ones in 49, but I don't think they started mass import till 55. Yeah, I've never seen it. Split window Beetles look the best. Changed my mind. I really like the split window Beetle. Yeah, I really like the split window Beetle. They do look really good. I like the oval window when they took the split out of it. But I'll tell you, I think my favorite, honestly, is the window after the oval window. In 58, they went to a small rectangular window, and I just thought it looked good on the car. And they ran the small rectangular window through 64. And then they made the glass on the car bigger for 65, which still looked okay, but I preferred the thicker AB pillars and the smaller glass. The very early Beetles had no rear window, just louvers. This is correct. Hippie Miller says, we just finished a 74 Bug. It's more or less the same color as the Mexican spec picture. Cool. And thanks for swinging by, Hippie Miller. I see you doing a big burnout in the G-body, it looks like, for your thumbnail. Props for that. The original Bug was a scam, though. They never went to mass production. It was after the British opened the factory the Bug was available, which is true. In fact, there was the Spark Art books was like a green stamp book that German workers could have. They filled up their book with stamps and they would get a new car. It's not believed anybody ever was able to redeem one of those for a new car. And the war interrupted all of this. The Bugs has never went to mass production. It was after the British opened it. But it's true. They did do mass production for the war effort, though. Volkswagen made an awful lot of German military vehicles. And some really cool stuff, though. I encourage you to look into those, as those were some cool stuff. Mohawk said, I paid $200 for my 71 Challenger in 85. It was a complete roller. Then my neighbor gave me his 71 Fury. He couldn't get it to start. He was moving and would lose his deposit if I didn't take it. Cool. What a deal that was. Bet you were flying high that day. Dallas says the Boattail Riviera used the back window out of the vet. I had no idea. I know they look the same. That's the same exact part. Is that for real? Rob's Rob's the Streetcar says, howdy, everybody. Well, hello, Rob. Thanks for swinging by. That's wow. You mean that's the same part? The same glass? I hadn't a clue. Buff said, I always wanted to split the window on a 71 Riviera. That's the kind of glass I don't even want to look at for fear it would break. The body's much wider, yeah. Yeah, I had no idea about that. I mean, come think of it, they look just alike, but I just had no idea. It's probably good for the Riviera guys because I doubt there's nearly as much aftermarket as there are for those as there is the Corvette. So the Corvette would probably drive any reproduction of that back window, I would guess. What year Beetle? What year Beetle what? Dean says our Australian 77 to 81 Valiant use 70 Valiant bumpers. I guess because your crash standards are different. In 73, we went to what people call park bench bumpers. Those big crash bumpers here were 1973. So I guess that's why you could use those in Australia that late. What year Vet? I don't know exactly what year. The people in the comments will tell you, but I know exactly the window they're talking about, and I think it would have been 63 to 67. I think I got that right, close to it. And some of those might have been split, some not. But yeah, it's that style of window. It's the vet right after the it's the first vets that had the concealed headlights. It's those. Okay, so Mexican Spec is saying the Riviera window is much longer than the Corvette window. Look at the picture, not the same glass. Just is a comment. I don't know. I've never looked into that. It just sounds interesting. Danny Boyd says, anyone see the 90s bump side Bronco made in Brazil? Really cool. That sounds like a Mexican Spec type vehicle. If anybody's seen it, it'd probably be him. Hippie Miller says 63. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Green block. Yeah. Old McDonald, does that mean the 77 Valiant bumper would fit my 68 Dart? I know that the front fenders and all are a little different. Old McDonald. I found a 68 dark bumper one time. Wasn't cheap. Yeah, I know you don't live in Brazil, but what I'm saying is that those cars have a much higher likelihood of floating through where you are than where we are. So that's why I'm saying if anyone has seen them, you're probably more likely than the rest of us. Just geographically, you're probably more likely for one to have come to where you are than here. But I don't know. The Fury just needed the old fusible link. It started right up, had a 400 727, went right into my Challenger. Of all the cars I've owned, I missed that one the most. I love the 400. I've never owned the 400. I've had plenty of threats to have a 400, but I'd love to have them. One of these years, I probably will. He says, cars don't come from Mexico, from Brazil. They're really expensive there. People are importing the vehicles from there to the U.S., though. Okay. Yeah, lots of people own 400. Everybody owns a 400 but me. I would love to have the 400 that came from my grandparents' car, but it's serving a higher and better purpose, disintegrating in a building where it will probably be until after my death. LB Bruin says, even had one in my Fury LEO car. That sounds cool. So I saw this thing, and this is the perfect thing to throw in the questions. This is like pulling the pin on a hand grenade of conversation. So here we go. I'm going to do it. What was it I saw? Oh, I know what it was. It was a Nivlac 57 video. Calvin said that someone had asked the question, if you could have any car from the year of your birth, what would it be? Well, Calvin said a Toyota Supra in 93, because that's his birth year. I said, well, what would it be for me? I was born in 77. And I think that if I could have any car from the year I was born, it would be a deep metal flake green 77 Dodge Monaco, 4-door, cop car wheels, like the one in that TV show Hunter. That's what it would be for me. With a 400 and 727, no question. So now I ask you guys, dare I do this? If you could have any car from the year you were born, no fudging, what would it be? Barrow's Garage says Robert McNamara introduced the Ford Falcon to compete with the VW and Nash Metro and Studebaker Lark. Then he took a job with JFK and LBJ as Secretary of Defense. I knew loosely what that deal was. He had a lot to do with the Mustang, too. Vintage Adventure Drive says, I wouldn't own any car from my birth year. I don't want that kind of modern complication. Well, you got a huge high five for that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. By the way, Vintage Adventure Drives, I believe he was born in something like the year 2000, so I get it. I really do. And if I have to go that late, it would probably be something like a Dodge Dakota pickup or a CRV if I had to go that late. Johnny C., 62 Biscayne. Colleen says 69 Camaro. Buff says 54 Corvette. LB Bruins, you don't get this. You weren't born in 77. Dust Devil Garage says 73 Roadrunner 400 727 slapstick. Now we're talking. Clayton says 73 Mustang Mach 1 or 73. Nah, you don't get to do or. You don't get to do or. Or 73 Lambo. You got to pick. You got to choose. No, you can't say model. No. You gotta pick one for the model year. '76 Roadrunner. I like that, Jay. I like that. Nobody would say that. I do. It's an F-body Roadrunner. Cool. Old McDonald's a 69 Hemi Coronet convertible. Yeah, if you were born in the right year, you had your pick. LB Bruins a 61 300 convertible G. Yes, excellent choice. Danny Boyd's saying if he was born in 54, he'd want a Y block or Olds Rocket. Buff picked the 54 Corvette, which I think is a great choice. Hippie Miller's saying 82 Cutlass. Okay. Vintage Adventurer Drives was born 4 days into the year 2000, into the new millennia. Mohawk says that's the difference between our generations. We didn't do 4 doors, so we could help. Right, and so many 4 doors just got gone. Perfectly good 4 doors. Lone Ridge Garage is saying 62 Impala. Excellent choice. Scrap Iron Racing, 51 Mercury. Nothing else in 51 compares. If I was going to do 51, and that was my birth year, it's going to sound crazy. It would be a 51 Ford F1 pickup like Sanford & Sons, because I love those trucks. I just love the grill in those trucks. One-Eyed Cat says 65 Mopar with a big block. Peckerwood Customs Aaron says 66 Barracuda. Howdy, Aaron. Thanks for coming by. But could you adjust the valves on it, sir? Dallas is saying 76 Buick Century Spirit of 76 car. Great choice. If I was born a year sooner, like old Dallas there, who knows? Maybe it would be something like a 76 Dart Sport Hang 10 or something. I don't know. Maybe. Hard to say. Hard to say. The big question is, will my steering wheel pass tech? We're going to get Deke back on. He was having tech problems tonight with his internet and sound and locking up. And so I'm going to troubleshoot it with him, and we're going to bring Deke back because we definitely want to have him back on. It was a great live. What little bit we could work with technologically, it was wonderful. We just want to get him his time, and we're going to do that again. Blue Grit Garage is saying 61 Ford with a 406 tri-power 4-speed. Okay. Indecisive Garage is 60 Ford Fairlane. I like it. Danny Boyd remembers the Hang 10. Yeah, kind of neat, weren't they? Hippie Miller says if it was a truck, it will be an 82 K30 big block 4-speed. Well, yeah. Yeah. Johnny C. still has pictures of his mom's Biscayne, brand new, red top, 2-door, 283 auto, sold in 74 for $75. Sure, but here's the thing. We'll have Deke back, and send me a picture. I'll get it to Deke ahead of time. We're going to make sure you got what you need. Indirect Connection is saying those Spirit of 76 Buick heads the 231 V6, if I remember right. Yeah, when I see Buick, I think that's a Dallas question. I am not the resident Buick guy. I feel bad for botching it on Henry Ford. I had his birth year and death year kind of conflated and turned around and everything else. Barrows says, you and my daughter were born on the same day. Wow. Was that January 4th, 2000? The only vehicle for my year I wouldn't mind is a 2000 Dodge Ram 2500 with a Cummins and a 5-speed. Well, now you're talking. Now you're talking. You and I seem to think a lot alike on some things. Mohawk said, I never understood why the Spirit of America cars came out in 74. Because they were hyping it up. They were hyping up the bicentennial in 74. They started making the bicentennial quarters in 75. That's why you never see a 1975 mint mark quarters, because they made those quarters 2 years, 75 and 76. I'm going to put out a short. I did video for it. I don't have it yet, but I'm going to give you guys a still picture. And Buff, you can check this out. I did find a local guy. There's like the last radiator shop on earth. And this guy right here, Don, who's been doing it forever, he soldered my bracket back on my radiator. We checked it for leaks. We flushed it out. And I just need to change my cooler fittings. And I'm doing some experiments to see if I can get a little more corrosion out of it. But it does flow well now. So I've got my radiator pretty well squared away. And I'm going to be showing you guys that, what I get for results with what I'm doing on the inside. I'm not sure what this goes with, Mexican Spec. Not on Earth, just in Europe. Oh, yeah, well, but see, around here, it's not just my area. I think it's in America, because this country has gone to plastic and aluminum plastic tank radiators, and it's just a lost art. So I can see that. But here, and also, too, regulations on the places, EPA and antifreeze and all this stuff. So I can see why they're going away here. They're just going away. People just buy new, cheap radiators, and they don't want to recore them. I asked him what a recore would cost on my brass tank, like if I was to bring one in there. He said, you're looking at over $300. And that's why. So anyway, yeah. So in America, but I can tell you, that's the only radiator shop I can think of within 100 miles. The one in Bluefield closed up. The one in Roanoke closed up. There used to be one in Salem. I think it's closed up. They're just going away. Vintage Adventure Drives, there's 2 local shops there, but he took up repairing his own. I thought about soldering this one, and Buff raised a couple of concerns about doing it. I said, you know what, I'm gonna see if I can find somebody left who does this. And he did, and it was interesting. I learned some things about how to do it and the way he did it there, and it was neat. I got to watch how the repair worked. I filmed it, so I'm gonna be trying to make a short of that for you guys. The only reason we have any shops around at all are because of the data centers. They're big generators. Well, most of the shops you still see around cater to these giant mining outfits. Like there's one in Bluefield still, but that's about all they want to do, are these gigantic radiators, 6 feet tall and over a foot thick, that come out of these gigantic mining machines. The guy here, Rodder, repaired a dart radiator for $40. Okay. And this guy did that repair dirt cheap on my radiator. I actually gave him a nice tip for it, because I thought, it was really, his time was worth more than what he charged me. And he did a really good job. But he did a great job. I will take this guy. He's in Whitfield, Virginia, Don's Radiator. If I need any more radiator work done, that's where it's going. I thought he did a great job. And he certainly knows what he's doing. He's been doing it over 30 years. Barrows says A1 Radiators in Blackfoot, Idaho is our go-to shop. Lyle's a heck of a great guy and very reasonable, but most of what he does is heavy equipment industry. Yeah, exactly. That's the market still. You can't get a cheap parts store radiator for a bulldozer. And by the way, we have gone a little overtime tonight, just because we were a little bit late start and so forth. So I'll stick around until 10:15, and then I'll call it a night. Got a good crowd in here still. And I want to thank all of you for coming out. And we are going to have Deke back on. We're going to iron this out, have him back on. Blue Brick Garage says, wasn't the red, white, and blue theme because of the Olympics, not the bicentennial? I can tell you on the Mopars, it was because of the bicentennial. Indirect Connection says, everything is about being cheap and making assemblies now. It was over $100 cheaper to replace my front shocks on my truck with the coil. Yeah, I'm noticing that. The loaded struts with springs are pretty cheap now. And I think that's the way I'm going to go on my CRV. Once I got my radiator in my van, I'm going to do front struts on the CRV. I got the one on the left front making a pretty wicked noise right now. LB Bruin says, I once had a 4-row radiator made for my 58 Fireflight from the old shop. Was that Norfolk and Southern shop in Alexandria? The shop is long gone. Johnny C said they had a 72 Mustang with the Olympic theme. That's cool. Yes, the 84, the Olympics, the Summer Olympics was in LA in 84. That's correct. 10:15 is another hour for me. Well, I'm in the East, so 2 minutes for me. Yeah, and so Buff is our radiator expert, our resident radiator expert. So I called him. He gave me a lot of good advice, and I appreciate that. But I would like to collaborate with Buff on some stuff with radiators. Be fun. He's a knowledgeable guy. Buff has a strut tool in his shop. Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you what, that's a dangerous job. Hey, Deke, and thank you. We appreciate you. We're going to work the tech thing out, and we're going to have you back, my friend. Definitely want to do that. We're going to work it out, and we're going to do it. Or if you want to come here and visit the Harrisons, we can get together and do a live here. That'd be a lot of fun. Sounds like a plan. Or if you can talk the Harrisons into coming out to No Name Nationals, have you homecoming there. I mean, between Ty Tyler and Weston, you could bring the B, you could bring the GTX, you could bring the Hemi Belvedere, right? Isn't that kind of how that would work? Danny Boyd's saying you should see me disassemble a Ford Tempo strut. I unbolt the cap raw. Oh, no way. I will not do that crazy stuff. Will not. And, you know, it's bound to just rip the end of the last thread. I wouldn't do it. Mohawk said another fun live. Going to rename that video on what we need to pass tech and see if it'll move to the top. Yeah, just, you know, work with the title if you think you need to. But that said, I'm glad you did it. And do check out on Mohawk 62's channel. He does have a good video on passing tech for a car that's slower than 769, which I think will help a lot of people. So do check that out. We're going to have Deke Denney back on. Also, don't forget to check out Tech Talk Live with Dallas and Professor P on Wednesdays. And we will be back here 1 week from tonight. It's going to be 48 days until the No Name Nationals. It is getting here before you know it. And with that, all of you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you again soon.